In this task, we're going to create the preliminary grading. The purpose of this is to determine if the finished floor elevation that we're going to use as our starting point is the proper elevation to determine or identify the minimum or maximum amount of cut and fill required for the site. We want to try to balance out that cut and fill, so we need to kind of do a quick determination of what is going to be the proper elevation for our starting point of our finished floor. So we've already got our existing ground, our original ground surface created and into the drawing. We're then going to bring in our site plan. So I'm going to bring in this site plan, which is a 2D drawing that is a schematic of, or layout of our site. So we'll go ahead and bring that in. You can see that it's in 2D. And we're then going to start by relayering some of these lines and objects. They're on the original CAD layers. So before we do that, what we want to do is actually do a project cleanup. So we're going to run through the project cleanup. We'll go ahead and hit apply. Make sure that our join lines is set to like a 0.1, and we're removing all these unnecessary layers and blocks and dimension styles and whatnot. So you can see it joined a bunch of lines. It removes some layers and so on. Okay, so we'll hit close. Then we will come in and we'll start with the building pad. I'm going to pick this building pad, and we're going to go to the Edit tab or ribbon, and we'll go to Relayer Objects. So we'll pick that building pad again, and I will come over here and we're going to put that on the Design or DES building pad layer. We'll click OK to that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to relayer the other objects. Now before we go ahead and relayer, we want to pick the relayer command first so that it brings up the command without anything selected. If we don't do this, then it's just going to relayer it to the previous layer that we had selected, which would be the buildings, which is what we don't want it to do. So we're going to start with the top back of curb. So I'm going to pick the top back of curb, holding my control key down for the object. You can see the line goes all the way around. We want to grab these islands as well. Oops, we're going to grab the top back of curb for each one of those, and we're going to set that to the top back of curb layer. We'll apply or OK that. And we'll deselect everything again by just clicking in the plan view. We'll click Relayer Objects again, and this time we're going to pick the flow line. So we're going to control that one or hold that one. We want to grab these back here as well because we want to put in some heavy-duty concrete back there. And then we're going to come down. Let's pick this flow line. We'll pick these flow lines as well. So this could just be the actual edge of pavement, but we're just going to call it the flow line, right? So we'll come in here and we'll set that to curb flow lines, and we'll click OK. All right. So now that we have that, the next step will be to elevate some of this data. So we're going to go in and I'm going to elevate the building pad. So we'll start with that one. So we'll come in and we'll select the building pad. We'll go to data prep and select elevation. For the elevation, we're going to use an absolute elevation. So we're going to enter in a 450 for the absolute elevation, and we'll apply that. So that's going to be our starting point for our finished floor elevation of 450. Since we have this selected, we can go ahead and close this. What we're going to do next is we're actually going to project this building pad out 2% across our parking lot, because we're going to try to grade our parking lot at a 2% slope down to the entranceway. We are going to have a pitch in the middle to send it out to the sides of the parking as well, but for the most part, a 2% slope all the way around is going to be what we're going to try to achieve. So to do this, I'm just going to go to the CAD ribbon and I'm going to use the offset line. I'm going to offset this line, so I'm just going to call it temp feature line. Is going to be the new line I'm creating. For the layer, I'm just going to put it on miscellaneous work. Now you can see we have a yellow dot there, so we want to come over to our view filter manager and we want to turn on that miscellaneous work layer. We've already got the line selected. Our distance, we want to kind of send it out to this area out in here. So if I just pick a point out here, or you can see it's 400, so we'll make it 400. The side, we want to go to the outside of the building. Alright, so it's going to be to the right side. And for the vertical offset, we're going to go a -2%. So we're going to type in -2%. And then we'll go ahead and click apply. So that projects out that line at a 2% from our building pad. The next step, what we're going to do is we're going to select that building line. Alright, so we can close this. We're going to select the outer line here as well as the building line. And we're going to go to the surface ribbon. On the surface ribbon, we're going to select create surface. And we're going to make a new surface called temp 2% plane. Alright, so we're just creating a temporary 2% plane surface. We will click OK. And that's going to create a surface called temporary 2% plane. You can see that it's created that surface and projected it out around our building. From here, what we're going to do is then we're going to select the ribbon or the top of a curb. Okay, we're going to take this top of curb, and what we're going to do is we're going to elevate it to that plane. So I'm going to go back to the data prep ribbon. I'm going to select elevation. I'm going to choose this time surface elevation, and the surface I'm going to use is the temp 2% plane. So I'll click apply to that, and it's elevated that up. So it's set along this feature line, or along this line string. It's put a elevation at each vertex. All right, so we can close this. Now we can delete this surface because we don't need that anymore, and we can delete this line because we don't need that anymore. Now the next step, what I'm going to do is I need to close this gap. I can do this before or after this next step. So what I'll do is I'm just going to go to CAD. I'm going to create line string. I'm going to put this on the top back of curb layer. And we're just going to call this clothesline. And we'll click OK. And I'm just going to draw a line from this point to this point. And we can close this. Next, we're going to actually tie this to our existing ground. So I'm going to go back to the surface tab, or surface ribbon here. Click surface tie. The name of this is just going to be temp. The layer, we're going to put this on the miscellaneous work layer again. We're going to tie to the original ground. The reference line is going to be this top back of curb. The direction is going to be to the left, which is to the outside. Maximum spacing being 25. Our cut slope is going to be at a 1. Our fill slope is going to be at a 2 to 1. And we want to add this to the finished design surface. Now I'm going to click apply, and it's going to project that out. So now it's projected it out, you can see in a cut fill surface, or a cut fill projection. Because I put that on a finished surface, and my building pads and my top back of curb are also elevated as part of that surface, all I have to do is go to takeoff now and select build surfaces. That's going to build the finished design surface. So if I was to come down and turn off the original surface, you can see I have a finished design surface. It's just got a flat plane with the building pad. What we're going to do next is we're going to add some site improvements to really get this to our subbase, to account for our engineered materials for our building pad, our sidewalks, and our parking areas. So we're going to do that next in the following video.